Welcome to Evan de Milner's Latinum channel, and in this short video I'm going to give you an overview of what kind of things you can find on this channel and why it's worthwhile subscribing. One thing you will find on the channel is a series of over 300 videos where I teach Latin using only Latin as the medium of instruction. You'll also find the London Latin course. The London Latin course uses text and speech, and it follows a system called the serial and oral method, where one phrase is introduced at a time with a translation, and then we start to use that in very simple phrases and gradually build up our level of complexity.
The acted upon form, saccharum, and the sugars, Athenae.
And we have an exercise as this example here. There's also a French course which runs in a very similar way to the Latin course. This is Manesca's serial and oral French course, and some people who've used courses like Pimsleur and other modern courses have found that this course is actually preferable. Even though it's quite an old course, the idea here is to use oral French to prepare you for reading French literature, primarily 19th century and early modern French literature. In this course you're expected to keep a notebook. I spell out the words, you write them out, and then we have oral or written exercises. There are some 50 odd lectures in this course at the moment, and this number is steadily increasing. Another project which is ongoing is the recording of the body of work known as the Hamiltonian interlinears. And you can see the example here where the Latin runs on the top line with the English translation word by word underneath. And what I do is I read the Latin, and you can keep your eye on the English as Hamilton intended, using it like a parallel dictionary. And the Latin here has been slightly reordered to make the English parallel translation manageable. What I'm going to do is slowly over time record the entire corpus of these texts, so you can use them for your language study.
Potestatem Atheniensium, quae postulasset lemni facerent id sua spon.
These interlinear texts also exist for French, and I'm making use of them as part of my serial and oral French course, as we can see in this example here.
De Hambourg, appelé Robinson.
An ongoing project is the recording of Montanus's very famous Latin and Hebrew interlinear text, which you can see an example of here, Genesis chapter 54. If you look through the playlists for my channel, you'll get an idea of what's on it. The World in Pictures, Comenius's book, the first illustrated children's book ever. Here it's read in English, and there's also a version available in Latin. Then we have McGuffey's English Readers. I've recorded book 1 and book 2 so far. The other books are to follow. Some basic English literacy lessons, basic mathematics and arithmetic tuition. This is related to work I do elsewhere, but I've just put the videos up here on YouTube because they might be useful to someone somewhere. The Comenius Latin Language Education Project. This is an ongoing project including audio only and audiovisual materials to record and present the Latin course developed by John Amos Comenius. The Productive English Grammar, which goes over some very basic grammatical concepts which you need to learn Latin grammar. English Spelling Lessons. This is an ongoing course of lessons where I read out a word and then you write it down and I spell it out and you check whether you got it right or wrong, and also I give definitions. Ruddiman's Latin Grammar, which is an audio book. Nepos, a Roman text, once again as an interlinear, and also me reading the texts. Interlinear Latin Hebrew Psalms. The French for Beginners course, which is based on a presentation of the French with the words visible, and also the serial and oral French course I developed, which follows on from this, but it's just vocal, where you watch me and take notes. The French for Beginners you see here doesn't proceed very far along. If you want to progress further, you need to use the serial and oral French course. Celsus on Medicine, a classical Roman text. Sterling's Latin Language Paraphrases, also an ongoing project of mine to record the work of John Sterling, who wrote paraphrases so that once your Latin's up to a certain level, you can read the paraphrases in Latin before you approach the actual Latin author as an intermediate step. The London Latin course, which I've talked about already. Interlinear texts of Phaedrus, the Latin fables. Cornelius Nepos, both interlinear and standard texts. John Taylor's deconstructed text of Caesar. Eutropius, Comenius, The World in Pictures in Latin. Stamford and Scott's Latin Reader. This is the whole reader presented here with the text visible. So it's something, if you want to get lots of comprehensible input, this kind of text is very useful. Conversational Latin. This is a very popular series based on work by Corderius. Essential Latin for getting around. These interlinear texts are based on chemistry. They're from the Materia Medica, but they are useful because they're presented in a certain way which is unusual to find, and they're worded very much like modern recipes, and they're quite useful if you want to expand your range of Latin. Then these texts are worth having a look at. Handwriting lessons, if you want to write cursive handwriting. The serial and oral Latin course. Various samples of audiobooks available on the Latinum website in audio. A selection of Latin language educational texts, mainly Renaissance texts. Children's books in Latin, both mine and those by Laura Gibbs. And what I do here is give the voiceover for these picture books, which are hosted on the Tar Heel Reader website. Easy Latin for Beginners, various readings of very simple Latin. Selection of Latin songs and poetry. The Holy Bible, both Castilio's text, which is in classical Latin, and the interlinear text I mentioned already. And beginning course on Biblical Hebrew. I started this course and I haven't done much more with it recently. I do need to do more work on it. The Serial and Oral French course by Manesca for learning spoken French, but this is spoken French at a formal register and it's aimed at reading literature. Various vocabulary building materials. The Comenius material I mentioned earlier. Various readings at a slightly higher level, but not at the level of the Roman classics themselves. So simplified Latin at an intermediate Latin level, and that's Lectiones Alterae. And then the Latin language course where Latin is taught in Latin, and here you see there are 4 parts to this, some 300 videos have been made in this course so far. And finally, various readings from Aesop. There also is a lot of other material scattered around, and you will find that I have an index for this site which is linked in various places, and the main index you can see is here at the site Janua Linguae, hosted on Google Sites, And all of my YouTube videos are listed here by topic, and you'll also find here at the top a link to the associated sites, the audio course. So all of the audio materials I produced are available here, and they can be purchased as downloads or as DVDs. And the other important things are the Scholar website, which is the largest Latin language website in the world at present, and newly Scholar, which now exists on Google+, which was founded in January 2013. So that's Latinum and all the various bits of it as it exists at present. Please subscribe. Bye.